I mean, let's call a spade a spade. Like being ranked behind Notre Dame is absolute bullshit, but it's not surprising, right?
It was sad. It was pathetic. We never had a shot. Clemson was begging us to be in that game.
I think the last time the Noles won a game on the road, Richard Nixon was still president. You'd have to go back and check my stats on that, though.
All right, welcome to the show. This is the Fake Momentum podcast, where fans from Florida's Big Three schools go head-to-head every week, discussing that week of college football, talking crap about each other's games, and usually venting feelings about how our teams have disappointed us. This week, we're talking about last night's games, where Miami obviously took care of business against Syracuse, but the real question is, after that slow start, do Canes fans really feel any better, or do they think that they're back on track? Florida State failed to win a road game again. Florida State has not won a road game since November of 2023, when they beat Florida with Tate Rodemaker in the Swamp. And last but not least, the Florida Gators get blown out by powerhouse Kentucky and bench DJ Lagway. Maybe the only program that's making me feel better about our own. So that's what we've got today. This week we've got Dirk representing the Hurricanes. Dirk, thanks for joining us, man.
Yes, sir. Happy to be here.
And we've got Andrew holding up the Florida State contingent. Andrew, thank you for taking the time to be here with us again today.
Yeah, of course. Happy to be here.
All right, boys, let's jump into it. We're going to start with the Hurricanes. Unfortunately, the most successful team in the state right now, and it is not even close. All right, Dirk, let's talk about it. Obviously, last week you guys had a tough one against SMU. Look for that get-right game, slump buster against Syracuse. But I want to know how you feel. Obviously, it's a big win against an undermatched opponent with a slow start. So talk to me. How are you feeling after that game?
For sure, for sure. No, it was definitely a get-back game. But I wanted to start with condolences. You know, I definitely want to send my deepest, heartfelt condolences to Fran Brown's wife, because 7 weeks without any soap, nobody should have to experience that kind of hate. Like, I'm so sorry to her, but it couldn't have happened to a more fitting person. So when we talk about last night's game, 28 points is not nearly enough of a margin of victory against a Fran Brown team. That being said, it's nice to get back in the win column. So expectations for me, and you know, I probably speak for most of the fan base, were like really up here come September. Now they're like, well, same old Canes. Now you got to prove it to me. But slow start was concerning. 4 straight punts, you know, when the offense has been really stagnant since really we took the foot off the gas pedal against Florida State. It's looked really bad offensively. But they seem to find something in the second half, so we'll see, man.
All right, so tell me, Dirk, who do you blame that slow start on? Do you blame it on Carson Beck? Do you blame it on play calling? What do you think it was?
You know, I feel like the low-hanging fruit is probably Carson Beck, because he doesn't know which shade of orange to throw the ball to sometimes. It's not all on him. I think, to me, the biggest surprise has been how the offensive line went from being so dominant to I don't know how to play football anymore, between the pre-snap penalties, which it seemed to clean up a little bit last night.
I think they had 1 or 2 yesterday.
Yeah, it wasn't nearly as bad. Like, I think we're tied for 129th in the country as far as average penalties per game. So, like, that's awesome for us. I couldn't be more thrilled about that. But it seemed like they figured something out, at least with the pre-snap penalties. But it's almost like this Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde type of thing, where with Carson Beck, you either get like surgical or I'm just going to chuck it up and see what happens. So I think Shannon Dawson has to call the plays like to defend against bad Carson Beck instead of taking advantage of really good Carson Beck. And that's kind of where we're on this hamster wheel. And then you get Mario that only wants to run the ball up the middle. Like, I think he'd bang his head against a brick wall if he could, say, run ball up middle. So I think that's where the state of the offense is at right now.
I got to agree. And, you know, I feel like once they started letting Carson let it rip a little bit, that's when they started to move. They went away from the run game a little bit and gave it to him. And, yeah, it was his receivers making big plays, things like that. But, I mean, it was nice to see him chuck it around a little. And that's when the offense got going, in my opinion.
I mean, if they're stacking the box like 7, 8 deep, and they know you're going to run it up the middle, shout out SMU. Maybe we should go away from that. Maybe just a little bit. Like, you're paying the guy $4 million to throw the ball around the yard. Let him and deal with the bad. Like, last year with Cam Ward, obviously that offense ranked like first in the country in almost every statistical category, but you took the good Cam with the bad Cam, right? You knew if you were going to let him chuck it around the yard, he might put it in harm's way. But there's some really good plays that can happen. Exactly. Yeah. So, if the ceiling is X, well, we need to let Carson Beck throw it around to at least kind of reach that ceiling. But, I feel like the attitude of the team went from, really edgy at the beginning of the year, with the Notre Dame game, the USF, Florida State, Florida. We had more edge. Now we're a lot more timid. And we call plays that way. We execute plays that way. And I think it shows. And that's why we get off to these slow starts.
Drew, I want to ask you if you watched the Hurricanes game and what you thought about their slow start. Did this team look like they fixed their issues, or did you kind of see the same issues that they've had all year, just, against a really overmatched opponent?
To me, they look the same they have the past few years. And I think there's one common denominator, which is Cristobal. I mean, it's what he looks like every year. Great coming out the gates. By the time you get to October, November, he starts their team. That team is way too talented to be playing the way they're playing. And it's the same way every year. You get Cam Ward last year. Carson Beck, I'm very mid on Carson Beck, but he is obviously a good enough quarterback, and you have good enough receivers to do more than what you have done. So I really do think it's Cristobal. I mean, I think that it's just more of the same. So I don't think they're back on track. I think that's just who they are. Right now, I think they'll probably win out. But unfortunately, actually, y'all had some good luck yesterday, but unfortunately, you're going to have to back into an ACC championship. And now you're having to depend on Pitt. Well, y'all played Pitt at the end of the year, right? So that'll actually probably be a pretty big game.
Yep.
Depending on what Georgia Tech and Virginia do.
Two big losses for the Canes last night, with Louisville going down and Virginia losing to Wake Forest for sure, giving the Canes hope. Definitely, last night was a good break for the Canes. Dirk, I want to ask you quickly, after that game, do you have a bounce back in your confidence following, the SMU loss and this performance, or do you think that it was kind of window dressing on the same mistakes you've seen all year?
That's a really good question. So my head tells me we got 20 years of experience to not fall for it, right? Not take that low-hanging fruit. My heart says, at least they figured something out in the second half. Crazier things have happened, right? All we got to do is get to the ACC championship game and see what happens. But, I can set my watch by how consistent they've been over the last 20 years to find a way not to get to that game. So I'm not holding my breath. I would love to see it, no doubt. When we went into the ACC all those years ago, it was going to be the all Canes conference. We were going to dominate all the things, and we haven't. So I don't know that Mario Cristobal is the common denominator in us having these collapses, because I just think it's the logo at this point, whether it's Manny Diaz, Mark Richt, you go on and on from Randy Shannon on, we just haven't had sustained success. So the most successful year we've had was, I think, 17 with Richt, and it also ended in a, end of the year collapse.
Yep.
That's right.
All right, I want to ask you one more question about that game, and then we'll kind of talk Canes' big picture, ACC title. Obviously, we had the playoff rankings come out. But the last question I want to ask you about yesterday's game, what is the point, what is the play, what is the sequence of the game where you said, all right, we may not be playing well, but we're going to win this game? When is it that you knew?
I don't know if I can pinpoint a single play, but I can tell you, as bad as the offense was, the defense was equally as good in making sure that we didn't let the game go. As poorly as the offense was, these guys gained yards and everything, but the defense made sure to close the door, and we had 3 takeaways, so that made me feel pretty good. As bad as the offense is, as good as the defense played with 3 takeaways, I felt okay. I never felt like the game was out of reach. or that, Syracuse really had all that much hope. The sequence for me that sticks out where I knew Syracuse was done was when Fran Brown was yelling at Mario Cristobal across the sideline. It's like, that guy is such a
right?
dork, like an absolute dork. Like, you're 3-6, my boy. Like, go back to the kids table. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, if you still had Angeli here and you guys were winning games, I'd listen to you a little bit. But right now, like, remember your place. You're Syracuse. Stop it. For me,
No.
as a Florida State fan, I was watching the game early, and when I knew that you guys were going to pull it out was the end of the first half. You guys finally go down. You run that crazy trick play to get a touchdown, and Syracuse gets the ball back with like 2.5 minutes to go. They're getting the ball in the second half, and I'm saying, man, they're in this game. All they got to do is go down, maybe score, maybe get a field goal, or worst case scenario, kill a lot of clock, punt it back to Miami. The only thing that you can't do is exactly what they did. They had a 0-0 game with 3 minutes to go in the half, and all of a sudden, it's 14-0 because you make a crucial mistake in a dangerous area, and you really took yourself right out of the game, I think, then, and that's when I knew Syracuse they weren't built for the moment.
No.
All right. Drew, I'm going to come to you. I want to know what you think about the first playoff rankings in general, and specifically what you think about Miami being left so far back. I know it was off a loss, but specifically that they beat Notre Dame in a head-to-head, and Notre Dame is in the playoff, and Miami is, severely kind of on the outside looking in, and what you think about the playoff picture as a whole, and specifically as it relates to those two rankings juxtaposed to each other.
I mean, what more do you expect? It's exactly what I expected it to be. I don't really have any respect for the committee. I've kind of been just tuned out completely after December 2023. So, I mean, my opinion today is different than it would have been Wednesday or Thursday or Friday. But, I wasn't surprised that teams like Virginia, Louisville, Miami all got basically out of the playoff as of the first ranking. When you're like, how is that possible when one team, they're all 1 or 2 loss teams, and or in Georgia Tech's case, and yet they still said, no, you're not invited. You're not good enough. Now, of course, I kind of proved out because they lost, but they didn't lose back then. So the fact of the matter remains, like, it's just more of the same. They don't respect anybody in the ACC. Even if we are good, they just say, well, it's the ACC, so you're not really that good. And then, of course, the Notre Dame thing, yeah, I don't get that at all. I'm like, 10, I understand the timing of it is weird, but even now, even with Miami's kind of sliding the way they have the past few weeks as far as wins, losses, if they played Notre Dame again, I mean, that line would probably be, within 3 points?
Yep.
Like, I think Miami has a really good chance of beating Notre Dame, so I don't understand the Notre Dame hype at all. They're a good team. I just don't think they're the number 10 team.
It never surprises me, the mental gymnastics that the committee has to do to justify their rankings, and despite head-to-head results on the field, they do what they want. So, Dirk, talk to me about how you feel about where the Canes were placed, and specifically about them being behind a team that they beat in a head-to-head matchup.
I mean, let's call a spade a spade. Like, being ranked behind Notre Dame is absolute bullshit. But it's not surprising, right? Because the committee always gives love to the SEC, so they'll get as many teams of the SEC in the top 12 as they can get. Outside of 2 teams in the Big Ten, there really isn't anything else. Although I do think Indiana is the best team in the country, personally. I do. I think they've earned that. I think Mendoza is running away with the Heisman, or should.
That game
anyway.
Yesterday was insane.
Yo, shout out Columbus. That's my guy. Love me some Fernando Mendoza.
See pride, buddy.
Yeah, baby. Adelante. So, yeah, Notre Dame should be, probably somewhere in the mid-teens, in my opinion. Virginia, Louisville lost. So it's interesting to see the Texas and Oklahoma dynamic also, because they have a head-to-head game. So the mental gymnastics is, honestly, it's hilarious because it'll change from week to week to week to week. Granted, it's still the first go at it, but it's going to be a tough road for the Canes to make up that much ground with 2 losses. And I'm just curious if the committee looks at losses as a whole, objectively, or more subjectively, like when you lose, right? So look, Notre Dame had their 2 losses early. They bounced back by beating nobodies, and now all of a sudden, they ripped off a few games in a row. The Canes had a really tough start, strength of schedule wise. I think we're strength of schedule like 26 or something like that. But we had some really good wins there, and then dropped 2 that we shouldn't have. So I don't know how they measure expectations that way.
So whatever fits their narrative, that's how they measure it. Because if you're Ohio State, you can lose the last game of the year, not even make your championship, and they go, still Ohio State. We're still going to put you in the playoff and eventually get the win because you have talent. But if you're,
it's happened for Bama
else,
too over
they go,
the years.
Ooh, wow,
So.
You lost at the beginning of the year. We should jump you over a team who hasn't lost at all. Not 1, but 2. Let's have 2 teams jump you because you're just playing so good. So they try to be objectively. They're subjective, no matter what. They'll change their opinions. They change their rankings. They change their criteria, however they need to. It's the whole thing is such a bunch of. It's shit.
They make up
Bring
stats.
back the BCS.
You remember when they made up the game control stat to help keep Florida State down?
Seriously,
and then no one's ever talked about game control since then. By the way, have you guys heard them mention that in a decade?
I completely forgot about that. Actually, That's awful.
Not me.
It is. They. I mean, honestly, yeah. As much as I didn't like parts of the BCS, like there's 12 teams now, and there's likely going to be 16 teams in the next couple of years. Just do that with the automatic qualifiers of the conference championships, and then just do BCS rankings again. Like, it's not 12 people deciding, it's 2 different polling categories and statistical scoring. Like, I don't know. It just seems the most appropriate. I don't understand that either. Go back to it.
It feels more objective, for sure.
You would take the bias completely out of it, right? So
devise
some kind of algorithm and
you still have the eye test of the media and the coaches poll playing a factor into it. So it's like you still have that, like, oh yeah, this team has 2 losses, but they lost to the number 1 and number 2 team in the country. So like I'm going to put them at 3 or 4, or whatever. Like that's the whole point of having both the human element and the computer scoring element.
I agree. All right, enough talk about the Hurricanes, at least for now. I've had about all I can stomach. Let's turn to something else that makes me even sicker to my stomach, and that is Florida State football. As we know, FSU lost last night to the worst Clemson team in probably 2 decades, and we made them look awesome. We scored a total of 10 points on a team that surrendered like 42 to Duke the week before. Drew, obviously I want to get your take on this first, man. It's surprising, but it's not surprising, but like it still kind of is. Like, what did you expect? Are you surprised by that loss, or is it exactly what you expected?
I don't know. We've been so bad on the road. I don't know if I expected to win, but it was like it's kind of like every game, even the rest of our games. Like every game is winnable, but every game is also losable. And so I was like, we're bad, but we're not. We have a somewhat good team, and Clemson is also bad. So I was like, we might be able to pull one out. But, man, it's no. So I kind of I had some expectation that we could win. I don't know. I just, what more do you have? I mean, it's more the same. Like another road loss. I honestly don't think the play calling was that bad. I mean, they left probably 200 plus offensive yards and like 3 touchdowns on the field. I dropped
Gus
catches.
Was in his bag early. Gus was in his bag early.
I mean, yeah, Randy Pittman had a wide open 60-yarder that he just dropped. Castellanos overthrew Squirrel White on, he was wide open. I don't know how, I didn't even think he had that kind of arm strength.
Dude, and it wasn't even close.
15 yards. Not even close. And that's 2 touchdowns right there. And then it's a whole different game. And then, of course, we fumble inside the 10. So it's like, I actually don't think the offensive play calling was bad. I just think it's more of the same. Of players just cannot execute. They just look terrible. I'll watch it for some reason.
Next week anyway. I know you said the offense wasn't that bad, but do you feel like the defense was that bad? I mean, we only surrendered 24 points. I feel like that's imminently winnable. They're giving us chances early in the game, man, making a ton of stops despite the offense doing absolutely nothing. So I mean, who do you blame that on? Do you blame it on the offense?
I blame it on the offense. It's 100% the offense. Like, the defense was okay. I understand the first drive is scripted, but I don't understand how they just let it be a requirement that, hey, the first drive of the game, we're just going to go ahead and let them get a double-digit drive and score. Because that's just, why not? Why not? Why not put ourselves into a hole every single time? But no, it was absolutely... The offense wasn't good. I didn't think the play calling wasn't too bad, but the offense itself was awful. They kept shooting themselves in the foot over and over and over. So, like, I think the defense was, again, I think they were okay. But yes, they were absolutely good enough to win that game. And they made quite a few key stops, and the offense just said, nah, I don't know. We don't want anything to do with that. So
never seize the moment. Dirk, give me your Hurricanes perspective on what you saw from Florida State last night, what you saw from Clemson. Does it boost your opinion of Clemson at all? Did they look better, or are you just saying, hey, look, they still kind of played like crap. Florida State was just worse?
No, well, if the game was in Tallahassee, I think it would have gone differently, because I think the last time the Noles won a game on the road, Richard Nixon was still president. You'd have to go back and check my stats on that, though. But, they have a really tough time on the road. They showed flashes. I thought the defense was good enough. I don't think Clemson is all that good at all. So based on what I saw last night, I can say with my whole heart, I really hope Florida State keeps Mike forever. Lock him up to a huge extension. Make that buyout like $200 million, and let's ride, baby.
That's every Hurricanes fan's dream right now. That's for sure.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be. I don't think you're going to be getting your wish.
No. But I mean, honestly, of the big three, if I had my preference, I think college football is better when Miami and Florida State are both very good and very competitive. I think it does boost the conference. So yeah, honestly, if they let him on the team bus after that, that would have been a mistake. I hope White Mike is in Death Valley trying to get an Uber back to Tallahassee right now. So.
I wish they would have left him in Palo Alto.
Well, they're saying, I mean, because that honestly, that game, I told the people I was watching with last night, I was like, these two coaches are literally fighting for this game is their job. And you could see it. I mean, you could see it, especially in Dabo. He was like, I mean, he's goofy as hell as it is, but he was extra annoying last night. I wanted to punch him in the face.
He might have the most punchable
in my opinion,
in all of college
coaching
football
to not get fired.
Yeah, he definitely does. In the hundreds of coaches, he is the most punchable.
No doubt.
Now there are rumors that it's firing back up that Norvell might be gone in the next 24, 48 hours.
They're getting the money together. All right, so we'll talk Mike.
They need to.
I think that's what it is.
We'll talk Mike in a second. Let me just spew my hatred out for what happened last night. It's so embarrassing. It is now our 9th loss to Clemson in the last 10 games. Back in my day, we used to beat Clemson all the time, even when they were good teams. The teams with Taj Boyd, DeAndre Hopkins, Sammy Watkins, full of NFL players. We had battles in Doak, battles in Death Valley. And, those games were winnable all the time, man. And it feels like now we don't even have a fucking shot when we line up against Clemson. Like I said, it's their worst team in 2 decades, and they beat us by 14 points. It was sad. It was pathetic. We never had a shot. Clemson was begging us to be in that game with the opportunities that they're giving us, and we have constant drops, constant mistakes. We have to be the unluckiest team in college football. Like, it's unbelievable. And I think it all boils down to what we all kind of know, right? And this team lives and dies as Tommy Castellanos goes. When he's great, we're great. When he's awful, we're awful. And let me tell you, he was bad last night. First of all, he's not the joyful, happy Tommy running around, making plays, smiling. He's, shorting screen passes to Jalen Lucas or whoever it was, and then yelling and cursing to himself because he's short-arming 6-yard throws. And he's in his head. He's frustrated. He doesn't get his feet set. He's doing this weird sidearm 3-quarter throw that I've never seen him do, and he's doing it now every week. He's making these weird angle throws, man, and Tommy just didn't didn't have it last night, and I know he was let down by several drops along the way, but you know, the read option that he fumbles is because he's taking way too long to make the decision, and that's obviously a huge play in the game. So, you know, I think it all sits squarely on Tommy's shoulders last night. The defense gave us opportunities, make big stops, but him specifically in the offense just couldn't get it done.
When you watch him on the sideline, he doesn't have that same swagger. Like, he doesn't have that same pep in his step, that same edge. Like, the guy that was shit talking Alabama and then backed it up. Like, yeah, that guy is, I don't know where he's at. He's
sitting there looking at a fucking iPad with Gus Malzahn, dude. That's it.
Said, you see that? That's a receiver. You're supposed to throw it to him, not 20 yards.
I know you can't see him when you're on the field, but you can see him here, right?
I know. I'm using the Tua excuse. Hey, man, these linemen are huge. I can't see my receiver.
Big problem. Drew,
let me ask you. Put some lifts in his shoes.
Anything. Taller spikes, please. When did you know that the game was lost? What specific play or segment of the game that you said, man, we don't got it. This ain't happening?
God, I don't know. It was in the first half when we were down 18-0, but then they scored right before half, and I was like, okay, this is still technically a winnable game. But it was just, I think, honestly, the drops. Like, I'm trying to remember when exactly Randy Pittman's drop happened. I'm pretty sure, was it early in the third?
No, I think that was in the first half, man. I think that was in
the first half?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think when that happened, I was like, they don't, like, they're just not executing. Like, they have too many mistakes. And then, like I said, then they scored, and I was like, okay, maybe. And then they came right back out and went 3-and-out. They went 3-and-out so fast, people I was watching with, they're like, wait, how does Clemson already have the ball again? I was like,
they didn't realize we had a possession.
We ran 3 straight plays and we did nothing. It's like, what the hell? So it's just
typical.
Just bad. So I think that was probably when, just once I saw them drop the balls.
Any thoughts on that?
Just dropping easy plays. Like you said, the screens too. I'm like.
But no, I knew that Clemson had that game pretty early. Like, as soon as Florida State got on the team plane, like, I knew.
All right, so you knew as soon, basically 3 weeks ago when we lost to Pitt.
Yeah, like when the schedule came out and that game was scheduled on the road. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a wrap. For me, it was the Tommy fumble, because the defense again comes up with a huge stop, gives the offense an opportunity to respond. Great special teams play where we don't get a blocked punt, but we force an awful punt. Take over on the 35. I think it's still 8-0 at that time. We're on like their 8-yard line, dude, and we fumble. And I said, that's it. Like, this is just who we are, man. Just like Miami and Mario Cristobal, just in more embarrassing fashion, we find new ways to lose games all the time. And we did it again last night. Drew, I don't remember what your perspective was before, but I want to ask you now. Are you on the Fire Mike train, and do you think it needs to happen now, or do you think it's okay to wait till the end of the season to do it?
No, I'm definitely on the Fire Mike train. I mean, he's been given too many chances, too much money, too many opportunities. I wish it would have happened after Stanford. I mean, I guess I get why they didn't, because we don't have the money, frankly. But so I think they had to find the money, and then I think it was like, okay, well, we have a bye, then we have Wake. The season at that point in time was technically not lost, so let's, if we can go 8-4. I mean, honestly, 8-4 was my preseason prediction for this team. So I was like, if they could end up like that, then, whatever. But now, especially, I mean, now you're probably not even going to make a bowl game. And I think if there's any time to do it, it's now, because next game is Virginia Tech. They're not great. They're also with an interim coach. So I think if there's any time that you're going to fire him and try and get the team under a new interim and try and start the process, it's now. That's your best chance to salvage the season, is to kind of give a little bit of a layup game before you go to NC State, where you never win. And then you have Florida, which I don't even know how that game is going to go.
Listen, y'all got to do the Lord's work and beat the hell out of Florida. Like, come on. Come on.
Hey, they're you never know. I mean, they're pretty trash too. So funnier things have happened.
So is Clemson.
Yeah.
Dirk, so we know as a Canes fan, you want Florida State to sign Mike to a lifetime contract, and I think I see the reasons why. But if you could put yourself in Florida State's shoes, what would you do with Mike?
I couldn't believe they didn't leave him in Palo Alto. I can't believe they didn't leave him in Death Valley. So to me, as I look at like college football landscape as a whole, there's a lot of open jobs. So if you're gonna covet, one of these coaches that everybody else is going after, I feel like you got to rip the Band-Aid off and get to work, get the money together, get the budget for whatever you're going to spend on the next guy. So you think of a guy like James Franklin. Well, he can end up in 5 different places now. Where if you got rid of Mike weeks ago, you were probably only competing with Florida. Now you're going to compete with Arkansas and probably not LSU, but some of these other schools.
Auburn fired their coach. Penn State's looking for a coach.
Exactly. So there's a lot of good opportunities out there for coaches. So I think what Florida State is going to end up with is maybe kind of the same situation as when they hired Mike, maybe someone from a lower conference or something like that. Just because there's so many other openings, they're competing with so many other people. Not that I think that'd be the best hire, but it's going to get real expensive, and I don't know if Florida State has the pockets deep enough to hire the right guy.
All right. Well,
Sarah Blakely was at the Wake Forest game. Maybe they gave her the timeshare presentation, just locked her in a room and said, "Hey, all we're asking for is like $200 million.
That's it.
It's easy."
That's nothing for her. One can hope. So I've been pretty clear on my thoughts on it. I've wanted Mike gone since we lost to Pitt when we made that true freshman quarterback look like Oklahoma Baker Mayfield. I'm done with Mike. I'm so annoyed watching him on the sidelines with no fire, no passion. I'm more upset on my couch with some of the bullshit calls that happened in that game than he is on the sideline. He's taken this CEO role, right, where he just sits back and like lets everybody else do their thing. You still got to be involved here, right? Like you've got to be involved. You've got to act like you care about this job, man. Have some self-pride, like act like you care. It's unbelievable. I think this is where Michael Alford kind of backed himself into a corner with that idiotic statement that he released after the Stanford game, saying that we will reevaluate it after the season because, again, you've set yourself up for embarrassment just like we did last night, and nothing's being done about it. Again, I said this on the podcast before, and I will say it again. Them allowing this guy to continue to coach and continue to embarrass us on a national stage erodes the Florida State standard, and it's so low and so diluted now because of the things that we've allowed. Quickly before we transition on, Drew, if the Noles do get rid of Mike, give me your top 2 or 3 people that you'd like to see take the job.
Well, it's funny. I didn't joke about this, but the other show I was on, I mentioned it, and now it actually seems like a realistic possibility or the best possibility. But I mean, honestly, I think you try and go after Franklin. I hope to God we don't go after another G5 coach. Like, I think there'd be quite an uproar if they did. I think if they don't go previous head coach, I think they go a coordinator, a Power 5 or Power 4 coordinator. But I honestly think it's got to be Franklin. It sucks because you don't know he's not going to win the big game. He never has. But at the same time, we need somebody who can just like reset our foundation. Get it level again, get us some good recruiting again, get the talent back, not through a transfer portal, and just build some pipelines. And then, let's be honest, this is the ACC, so he probably won't have a big game until he makes it to the playoffs. And then maybe something changes. But for me, I just kind of want just structure again. I'm sick of losing every single game or going into a game having no idea where we're at. But outside of him, I guess I would say a Power 4 coordinator. I really haven't done any research on who the up-and-coming coordinators are. I mean, all the big-name coaches are kind of either getting extended or bought out. So I don't think that's realistic. I might need to up my search a little bit now. But I think that's...
What would your thoughts be on bringing back Jimbo Fisher for round 2?
I was going to talk about that. That is even more of a... I will say this, I'm not totally against it. only because I think he would come back for cheap because he can, because Texas A&M is still paying him. And if there's one thing I do know he can do, it is recruit, or at a minimum get talent here. He did it here. He did it at Texas A&M. Even though, he didn't do what Texas A&M wanted him to, he was still winning 8 to 10 games at A&M, which is better than anything we've done. So if he's willing to come back on a cheap contract, make it like super incentive-laden to be like, hey, we'll pay you a couple million, and then we'll pay you a lot more if you win playoff games or if you win the ACC championship or something like that, I would actually be okay with that for a few years. Unfortunately, I don't think it would probably be a permanent thing because I don't know if he'll ever win the big one again. I think the game's just passing by and he's too stubborn, but who knows? I've read and heard that because he lives in Tallahassee, but I've heard that he is in a better space mentally, that apparently the divorce really messed him up, and apparently that lingered over in A&M. So I don't know if maybe that stuff is out of the way. Maybe he can get back a little bit closer to what he used to be. But I would be okay with it. I wouldn't balk at it if it happened, as long as we're not paying him like $8 million
good
a
story
year.
would that be though? Jimbo coming back,
disagree.
getting the Christmas tree off the curb and putting it back in
Putting
the
it back in
house.
that. Yeah, see, now's the
Come on, such a feel good
back
story.
in the house.
Yeah.
Apparently that what didn't have to do with him actually moving on, that it was the tree was broken or something, and that's why they said
But it was so iconic.
Sure.
I think about it every Christmas season.
No doubt.
Dirk, kind of the same question. Who, if as a Hurricanes fan, who is it that you don't want to see take the head coaching job at Florida State?
I'd pay my own United States tender to make sure that Lane Kiffin would never be in Tallahassee. That would just be a problem. I don't know if he's going to leave Oxford. I think that it's just a good fit for him there. If he does, I think it's LSU. I don't think it's Florida. But realistic people that I think would be a good fit for Florida State, I think would be James Franklin. I think he would build that program up. I think he would, at the very least, bring it back to the standard that it should, to where things are not embarrassing and they're competitive, they're disciplined, they play hard. I think he'd be able to get talent there. And then as far as up and coming coordinators and all that, I would hate to see Brian Hartline in Florida State. That would just be a nightmare.
Start getting the
nightmare.
Jeremiah Smiths of the world. That'd be nice.
So yeah,
Well,
it'd be nice.
The guy recruits.
I would love that
whoever
only for at
he
least
wants.
get some receivers.
So I don't know how he would be as a head coach, but I know as a talent getter, a hoarder of talent, he's the most elite in the country. He's probably the best recruiter in the country. So I think that would be a problem for us.
I'm with both of you. As much as I've made fun of this guy over the last 10 years, I would take James Franklin in a heartbeat. I think he raises the floor of the program. Other than this year with Penn State, he doesn't really lose games he's not supposed to lose. He's not losing to Wake. He's not losing to Stanford. He's not losing to Duke. And we kind of need that baseline stability. That's what I think our program needs right now. Let's turn our attention in something we can all agree on, and it is hilarious to laugh at the Florida Gators. They get absolutely destroyed by powerhouse rival the Kentucky Wildcats, and they finally bench DJ Lagway. Let's just take a minute to laugh at them and enjoy that their season is worse than ours. I'll tell you, give me your thoughts on it, Dirk, first. They always really fought hard for Billy. They didn't really ever get, games like last night. Do you think that's a result of the coaching change and the players just being checked out now? Or do you think it's just because, the season's just trash?
That's a trash can of a program, first and foremost. Secondly, it was always interesting because as soon as the Fire Billy rumors came about, they all of a sudden got it together and they'd win a game they weren't supposed to, or they'd be really competitive in a game that they weren't supposed to. But no, that program is a dumpster fire. And if you're asking me as far as state of the program and the level of job that a head coach would be taking coming in versus Florida State and Florida State's a way better job. Way better job.
Love to hear that from a
way
Hurricanes
better
fan.
status than Florida. So honestly, for me, I kick up my feet and just enjoy the shit show that's in Gainesville. It couldn't happen to a more deserving school, a more deserving fan base. I wish this perpetual hamster wheel of just shit forever for them.
Amen to that. Drew, thoughts?
I mean, it's nice because there's no one here to defend themselves. So, but I agree with you, man.
We don't need to talk to them anymore this season. We know they're
they don't want to show their face.
Could they really debate what we're saying?
Who wants to come on? I mean,
just like you said, the fan base. No, not all of them. Obviously, we know a lot of Florida people, and they're all good people. But as a collective, man, there's not a more arrogant. Actually, that's a lot. There are, but that fan base can be so arrogant, and I'm like, for what?
It's toxic.
Like, outside of a span of like 10 years, or from like 2006 to 2010, and then the Spurrier years, like, what is your team done? like you do not warrant being as high and mighty as you are to think like you're so much better than the other teams in the state. So yeah, I'm so glad you said that. As a brand and a program, they're not any different than FSU or Miami. I'm like, you're right there with us, brother. Like, you weren't any good until the 80s, just like the rest of us. Like, get over yourself. But
Gator hubris.
Yeah,
no doubt.
But I will say, it's funny. The thing they touted for so long was that they beat Kentucky for like 24 straight years or something. And now, pretty sure they have like a losing record in the last 4 or 5 years.
Stoops, baby.
Yeah,
so good.
I know. Yeah,
So
what would
true.
be your thoughts of us? What if they tried to go after Stoops?
Dude, I don't know that I would hate it, man. I loved those defenses with Stoops. Like, those were my early years of college. And those defenses were so fun. They would hit you. They were sound. The guy can recruit. And, I mean, he's done well with, like, how high is he supposed to get that Kentucky program? You know what I mean? In the SEC. So, would it be my first choice? It probably wouldn't be in my top 3 to 4. But I don't know that I would hate it if old Stoopsy came back, man. How about you?
I think that's where I'm at. I'm kind of with you. I'm like, I wouldn't be psyched about it, but I wouldn't be like, I'd probably just like, okay. I mean,
I could talk myself into it.
Yeah, I can talk myself into it. Again, it's the same reason as the other coaches. Can he recruit for us? Which, he's always been a good recruiter. Can he get the foundation of the program back to like a solid level that, just a few things here and there could get us back up to a championship level, which I think he probably could. My concern though with him is that I think he's comfortable. I don't think he'd leave Kentucky. I think Kentucky would pay to keep him, but I'd be okay with it.
It wouldn't be
But
the higher.
I think he might be an option. I mean, there's some connection there, so who knows?
I think we could definitely do worse, like you said, Dirk. All right, last thoughts on Florida. Drew, do you think that DJ Lagway is back in Gainesville next year? And if not, where?
That's a good question. I actually really haven't thought about it. I'll just say no, just because of the sign of the times. He'll go somewhere else. That coaching staff has done him no favors. Not that it would be the same coaching staff, but I think the taint is there, and I think he'd probably just rather have a fresh start somewhere else. So I'm going to say no, he wouldn't be there. I don't know where he'd go, honestly. Like I said, I haven't really thought about it. I'm thinking of who.
All right.
I don't know.
Dirk, same question to you.
No, I don't see him coming back. I think the kid is in desperate need of a fresh start. Maybe if USF somehow holds on to Goldish with all of the teams that are going to interview him, maybe he goes down there and teams up with him. I think that would be a pretty good fit for him.
You wouldn't want him in Coral Gables?
I'm going to pass on that. I think if we are down to DJ Lagway as our best option for next season, I think we got bigger problems.
Quickly, thoughts on the rumors that came out this week about Miami going all in potentially on Lenore Sellers or someone like him?
Wouldn't hate it. We spent a pretty penny on Carson Beck this year. I think that's what we're just going to do. We're still going to recruit QBs, but I think where college football is at now, if you're going to make a run, you need an experienced signal caller. And Mario's also in year 4, so I don't know if he can wait a year or two to develop a QB. I wouldn't hate Lenore Sellers. I really wouldn't. I think that type of QB in Dawson's system, it'll be a little bit closer to what we saw with Cam, but I think Cam is just a really gifted, thrower of the football. So,
as we've seen, I think DJ's out. I don't think he goes back to Florida. Like you said, I think that guy is desperate for a fresh start, and with the guy that brought him there out, I think he leaves. I hope he goes home somewhere in Texas, maybe A&M. I don't want to see him in Coral Gables because just with the talent that they can put around him, they might, fuck around and get it right. So I don't want to see him go there. Go back home, buddy. Thanks for the time here in Florida. Glad you never amounted to anything while you were here. All right. So Dirk, you guys have a big game this week against NC State, who always causes problems for traditional powers in the ACC, but luckily you guys have it at Hard Rock Stadium. Give me your quick prediction on your game this week with NC State.
Well, I know that what we need to do is handle business early and gain as many style points as we can get. So it really just depends on which Canes show up, right? Is it going to be the disciplined Canes that started the year, first 3, 4, 5 games, or is it going to be the same old November Canes that don't understand how to play football in sub 90-degree weather? So it'll be really interesting to see, but what we need is the disciplined Canes to show up.
Agreed. Drew, thoughts on FSU's game with Virginia Tech this week? It is at Doak, so we have more of a chance since it's not on the road. What are your thoughts? Do you think the Nose pull it off or what?
I don't know. I think the next 2 days is going to be pretty big. Do we have Norvell or not for the game? I think either way, if we have Norvell or if we don't have Norvell, we should win. Again, like I said, every game at this point is winnable, but every game at this point is also losable. So would I be shocked if we lose? No. Yes, I would predict us to win, especially because now, you're fighting for a bowl game. You still have a very good chance at getting a bowl game. And Virginia Tech is your best. They're 3-6 now, so that's your best bet. You should beat them. You should have no problem against them. They don't even have their head coach either. So yeah, we should win. I think we lose at NC State, and I don't know. I'm kind of excited for the Florida game. It'd be like watching Jimmy and Timmy go at it.
I think if we have Mike on the sideline, I think we lose. Obviously, I'm very down on the team, very down on Mike. I think if he's out there, we lose. It's what Mike Norvell teams do. They lose games they shouldn't. We are at home, where at least we know we perform better. That offense hums a little bit more, so there's a chance. But the way we played last night, I don't think it inspires confidence for anybody. I think if Mike gets canned, maybe the team gets that dead body bounce and kind of gets a spark of energy, and maybe we can see something happen on Saturday night. Last question, guys. I think it's an easy one. I always like to ask at the end, whose program is the biggest mess right now out of the big three? Obviously, Canes fans, out of self-loathing, sometimes want to say them, even though it's clearly not. So, Dirk, I'll start with you. Who's the biggest dumpster fire right now out of the big three?
If you asked me a week ago, I would say Miami 100%. Just
for sure.
Self-deprecation, and, it is what it is.
Yeah.
And interesting about the Hurricanes is, in my life, I actually married a Puerto Rican from New York, so she is every stereotype that exists, but the most toxic relationship I'm in is with the Miami Hurricanes. So, that being said, yeah, Florida's the biggest dumpster fire. Easy.
Drew?
I'm going to say Florida too. Of course, I'm biased about it. I think they're just on a full-on blaze. We're just more of a little smoldering dumpster fire right now. But for me, it's just because their fan base has such high... it seems to me like they're Lane Kiffin or bust. And if they don't get Lane Kiffin, then I don't know. I've had rumors that they're going to throw $10 million plus at him a year to try and get him from Ole Miss, which would be crazy. He might warrant it, but... So I think they're Lane Kiffin or bust. And then if they don't get him, I don't know what they do. They'll probably have to settle. And then, like you said, at least with us, we've been a fairly consistent program. Hell, at least we had an undefeated season 2 years ago, undefeated regular season, and a championship. they've had nothing but cycled coaches for, well, frankly, since Urban Meyer. Since then, they've been cycling through coaches every 2, 3, 4 years. So
If
they're
they
on a
strike out
longer
on
fire.
Lane, what about Urban 2.0 over there? I think that
Oh
would just be
God,
must see TV.
So we
I
discussed that a couple weeks ago. I don't.
Yeah.
What Urban shows up, man. The guy's not even out here hunting jobs right now. Like Jimbo's at
no.
least out here being like, "Hey, I'd coach again." You know, you don't hear any of that from Urban. Does he even want to coach?
I don't know,
Did
but
y'all-
that guy would be a menace at the bars in Midtown Gainesville.
Oh,
Literally, bro.
I
Literally.
read something that like somebody he wanted. I think it was Penn State. Maybe somebody like he actually asked about the job, and then they asked him about NIL, and like his answer was terrible. Which I mean, I get he's never had to coach in an NIL period, so he probably doesn't really know how to do it. But if he goes back, I think he's done as far as like coaching. I just don't think he would be good at all. I would love it, but as a Jags
Think
fan,
about how far that would
As a
set him
Jags fan,
back.
fuck
That
him.
would just be chef's kiss.
I'd love it.
yeah,
I'd love it.
I would love it. It'd be
I
hilarious.
disagree with you guys though about the biggest joke of a program. I'm gonna say it's Florida State. I gave this answer last time I was on, and I'll say it again. You know what? At least Florida has a direction, and it's just a new direction. We're doing the same thing, hoping it's going to fix the problems we've been seeing for 6 years. And you know what? Somehow Florida manages to avoid like these national laughing stocks that we have, right? Like we always get clowned, and people think of us as a joke, man. And somehow Florida avoids this. So I think the answer is clear as day. I think FSU, unfortunately, is the biggest dumpster fire right now, and I hope we get set on the right path soon. That being said, thank you guys for your time on this Sunday, and can't wait to have you both back on the show.
Great. Thanks. Appreciate it. Thanks for having us on.
Later.